really who really controls our life and this entire cosmic manifestation. And amongst those people, there's even a smaller minority who is even aware of who this higher personality is. And so even when we meet up with other folks, we'll end up talking about, I don't know, the weather, our health, or even if it's so-called intimate friends, we talk about what did you cook, where did you eat, where did you go, what are you wearing, and, events, things, and so on and so forth. But at this point of time, over the next, 90 minutes or so, we're going to be talking about someone very, very special. I mean, even in the invocation of Sri Upanishad, this special aspect of this personality is so wonderfully, eloquently put in front of us. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. So we are not just talking about any personality. We are talking about a completely perfect and a perfectly complete personality. And the translation of that goes like this: personality of Godhead is perfect and complete. And he's so completely perfect that everything that comes from him, including this world, it is perfectly equipped as complete wholes. And it doesn't matter what you take away from this Supreme Personality, everything that, even though you take away these complete, so-called complete wholes from him, he still remains complete, okay? So we are going to be spending time talking about him. So let's try our best to give him our full attention. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start with Mangalacharan. One other thing I wanted to say, I wanted to actually take time off to recognize all the senior devotees that we have over here. Gopal Hari Prabhu is such a stalwart devotee. He has been shepherding many different communities and congregations, not just the Indianapolis one. I can say for sure he's a huge influence on ISKCON Cincinnati as well. And even on the larger community. So when we are talking about, spreading Krishna consciousness within the entire human sphere, so to speak, within humanity. So he plays a very, very big role in that. I also see His Grace Tirthakara Prabhu has joined. For those of you who do not know, Tirthakara Prabhu is also a very senior devotee. He lives right now in Europe. He also had a child a few months back, and I was just texting him, and it's so kind of him to join. So Prabhu, I'm definitely not as qualified as either one of you to speak over here. So please, if there are things that you would think that we need to talk about differently and so on, please feel free to interject and we can do that. I also want to play my respectful obeisances to all the other Vaishnavas who are accumulated over here. So these are those very special souls who are aware of the Supreme Personality and who want to spend their time and energy and their emotions in better understanding and developing this relationship with the Supreme Personality and all, and so on. I also see my esteemed parents are here, so this is amazing. This is quite an event. So thank you so much for joining. And I have to say, whatever I am today is because of their love and affection and their upbringing and their enormous amount of effort that they've put into, straightening me out, so to speak. Okay?
Haribo, welcome.
Okay. All right. Okay, so with that being said, let's go into Mangalacharan. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Thapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishavanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Prabhudata Prabhupadati Priya Sri Girirajaya Swamina Subhakte Sastra Vignaya Drira Sadhana Saline Radha Rasa Bihari Piyam Bhakte Pyas Chavatma Daine. Okay. All right. So as Gopal Hari Prabhu was saying, the month of Kartik is coming very quickly. In fact, we're just roughly about a couple of weeks away. I think it's on Saturday, the 31st, Halloween day, that we're going to be, that month of Kartik is going to be starting in the US. And so let's just talk about that. And I was thinking, let's divide our conversation into three different parts. So one, very briefly, let's talk about the Kartik Leela, the Damodar Leela. And then, within the Cincinnati community, we have been celebrating Kartik in a certain way. So we wanted to share some of those ideas with all of us, and then maybe as a joint community, we can go ahead and celebrate it in that way. And also, we want to spend some time talking about what we can do as individuals to celebrate Kartik, and why would we do what we do, right? Because we just don't want to do anything whimsically. So before we talk about the Damodar Leela, I want to recognize all the amazing Vaishnavas and senior devotees who have contributed to this discourse. So of course, our obeisances first to Srila Prabhupada, without whose contribution, frankly speaking, I seriously doubt we would have even had this conversation or communication. And also, he took such a lot of pain and effort to educate us onto the finer aspects of bhakti. I also wanted to recognize the commentaries of many senior Vaishnavas, Goswamis, also especially in this Leela that we are about to talk about, Sridhar Swami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who have revealed certain intimate details about the Damodar pastime. I also wanted to recognize His Grace Radhika Raman Prabhu. From some of his lectures have borrowed some aspects of this discourse. And also Radhanath Swami Maharaj, Shivrama Swami Maharaj, and also Loknath Swami Maharaj, from whose lectures have taken different snippets, and I'm about to share with you. So the whole aspect of the Damodar Leela actually is rooted in one very interesting quality that only the Lord has. And this quality is called Bhakta Vatsalya. Okay, it's a special quality that the Lord has with his devotees. And this is the quality of reciprocation. It is a quality where the Lord also gets tremendous pleasure in reciprocating with his devotees. So when we have these aspects of these Leelas with the Lord, we must remember that these are not necessarily just material events happening by material surroundings and environments around the Lord. Everything associated with the Lord, anything that that the Lord exchanges reciprocations with, actually also have a spiritual aspect associated with it. So these are all spiritual things, not necessarily material things. Okay. Now, what do we mean by that? There were many different things which were used in the Lord's service. For example, the peacock feather in Lord's head, the garments that the Lord wore, the garland that is around the Lord, and the shoes that the Lord is wearing, the flute of the Lord. So these different so-called things had that very special relationship to be able to directly serve the Lord and reciprocate with the Lord. Okay, but then there were other things which did not necessarily get these opportunities. For example, let's say the rope that is used to bind the cows in the shed. Those are very coarse ropes. They're very rough ropes. There is very little chance for those ropes to reciprocate with the Lord. Then, Mother Yashoda, in those days, you will see that even nowadays, of course, the Brajbasis, many devotees in India, many lady devotees in India, they would wear a rope around their waist. And on that rope, it's almost like a belt, but on that rope would hang their keys, some of the other things, but mostly keys and things like that. So I think it's called the kamarband, or it's like a female version of the kamarband. Kamarband is more the male version, and that obviously didn't have any chance of reciprocating personally and directly with the Lord. And then there would be these heavy curtains, and then the saris that Mother Yashoda has. They have no chance of reciprocating directly with the Lord. Then even the hairpin that Mother Yashoda uses to tie the flowers in her hair, that also doesn't have much chance to reciprocate with the Lord on a personal basis. But all of them had the desire to reciprocate with the Lord personally. There's another aspect of desire over here. The desire was for Mother Yashoda to reciprocate with the Lord in a completely Vatsalya mode. And frankly speaking, between a parent and child, there is a special rush of when you can discipline your child. This rush doesn't exist. You are not going to go ahead and most likely discipline the neighbor's kid. You don't have that opportunity. You don't have the privilege most of the time. But that privilege exists with one's own child. And a relationship between a parent and a child is not completely complete until unless you can exercise that privilege. That's a special rush that one has. So as circumstances happened, all the different Brajbasis and all started complaining to Mother Yashoda that, look, your child comes to our house, breaks the pot, eats all the yogurt, drinks all our milk, makes a mess, and so on and so forth. And Mother Yashoda kind of got a little bit fed up of all this. But she was contemplating that why is it that he does this? I mean, she's after all a queen in those circumstances. And it's not like there is any dearth of yogurt or milk over here. They have hundreds and thousands of cows. They have lots of yogurt, lots of milk, lots of butter, and so on and so forth. So why does Krishna actually go to somebody else's house and does this? And she was contemplating on this, and she came to a conclusion that this is because actually I don't make some of this yogurt. I don't make some of this butter. I have lots of maidservants who do that, and maybe that is why he's not really getting the taste of it that he would get otherwise from his mother. Now, that is why he goes and does all this. So what she did is she said that, well, I am going to go ahead and do everything from scratch myself. And then I will feed that milk and that butter and that yogurt and so on and so forth to Krishna, and then he will be completely satisfied. And there will be no need for him to go somewhere else. With that in mind, what she did is she said, well, I'm going to get the best of milk over here. And then there were these special cows called Padma Gandha cows. And the Padma Gandha, Padma is lotus, Gandha is smell, is they are fed lotus buds for an extended period of time so that the milk is flavored, and also the fragrance of the milk imitates that of those lotus buds. And those special cows were milked, and that milk was collected. And so early morning, she wakes up and she says, well, I'm going to go ahead and take this milk and boil it on the pot. And while that was happening, she also started in a separate place, she started going ahead and churning some of the yogurt, which was already present, into butter. Okay? And so while she was churning, the bangles on her hands and there was something else that she was wearing on her waist. Because of her movement, that those things started making beautiful melodious sound. And this melodious sound, accompanied by, she was also humming, and it attracted Krishna. So Krishna wakes up with these beautiful melodious sounds, and he's so incredibly attracted by that. And so he crawls out of wherever he is and comes over and sees his mother. And his mind and his whole face is so filled with love, and it's so radiant that it makes Krishna even more beautiful, even if that is ever possible, but even more beautiful and attractive. And Mother Yashoda just glances at Krishna, and her heart and mind is also filled with so much of love and affection towards Krishna. And with that, Krishna also gets even more attracted to Mother Yashoda. And so there's a little bit of transcendental reciprocal competition going on between who's more attracted to whom. But the long story short is, Mother Yashoda then is filled with this incredible urge to feed Krishna her breast milk right then and there. So she takes Krishna on her lap, and Krishna also, is so enamored by this point of time that he grabs onto Mother Yashoda's breast and starts drinking that milk, suckling the breast. And when he does that, when this thing happens, the milk in the pot thinks that, okay, Krishna is drinking that milk. What's going to happen to us? What's the point of our life? So we're going to go ahead and commit suicide because, hey, he's not going to drink us anymore. He's going to be completely filled like that. And so they start boiling over to commit suicide into the fire. And when the milk starts boiling over, it doesn't immediately the entire milk boils over. There's like this, there's a build up to it, like, me first kind of a thing. And then slowly they go towards the surface, and then slowly they spill over. And this process is accompanied by this hissing sound. And so Mother Yashoda hears that sound. And as soon as she hears that sound, she realizes that, oh my gosh, everything that I'm planning to do with making the butter and the yogurt and what have you is going to go waste. So she puts Krishna on the side and immediately goes and tries to take the pot off of the fire. Okay? And as soon as she does that, Krishna feels completely insulted. He's like, what the heck? First of all, you are the one who called me. You are the one who's humming and making this beautiful sound. Then you are the one who grabs me and puts me on your lap to drink your milk. You are the one who's in the process of offering something, and now you're taking it all away. So this is not done. So, he gets really mad at Mother Yashoda. And he gets so angry that he huffs and puffs and he leaves that place. And he's like, okay, I'm really mad right now. And so he looks around to see what he can find. And he finds a stone. And there is this a very nice segue to, talking about why he picked up what he did and what was it that he picked up and so on. We won't necessarily go that way. So let's say he finds the stone. And he takes that and he looks at the first thing that he finds, which is this huge pot of yogurt which is hanging on top, and he takes him and he goes ahead and throws that, and that pot breaks. And as soon as it breaks, most of the yogurt starts spilling down. And then he has it, oh my gosh, what did I do? All right, so he did something, he realizes now he's in trouble, so he takes off. And as soon as he takes off, his footprints his foot steps on the yogurt, and his footprints are now covered by yogurt, and it provides like these blue clues about where he's going. Now, in the meanwhile, Mother Yashoda hears the sound of that breaking pot, and she comes running. And she looks at the pot, and she puts two and two together. She looks at the footprint, and now she gets mad. And she's like, okay, I got to find this person who's doing all this. So she goes looking after, following all those footprints, looking after where has Krishna gone. And she comes to this place where there are all these different pots kept. And she realizes that Krishna is hiding behind some of these pots. And she's like, come out, wherever you are. There is this, a little bit of, she's basically asking him that, wherever, you can't really hide from me. You got to come out. And so she's looking for him, and then Krishna sees that her mother is about to catch her or figure out where he is, and he takes off from that room. And as soon as he takes off from the room, she starts running after him. And she's wearing this garland. And the commentary from Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur is that as she's running after Krishna, the different flowers in the garland have different emotions going to them. And some flowers are saying that, well, you know what, she's about to catch our master. Let's make the garland more heavy. And, some of the other flowers are saying, no, you know what, she's a great devotee. She's absolutely right. The master is already, Krishna is always troubling her. Let's make ourselves, make this garland light. And so they start falling off from the garland. And some of the other flowers are like, you know what, we don't really know how this is going to end up, so we're just going to be neutral about this. And so this is what's playing around. And then she's running and huffing and puffing, and it's not possible to, just to catch hold of Krishna if Krishna doesn't want to be caught hold of, right? We see that in so many different places, and especially in his pastimes with some of the demons and so on and so forth. But generally speaking, until and unless he desires to be caught hold of, it's not possible. And so, through his senses, he's able to sense that his pure devotee, his mother, is really trying her best to keep up with him and is not able to. And she is huffing and puffing, but she's not giving up. She's still trying her best to somehow catch hold of him. And Krishna feels that he is being tied down by that intimate desire by his pure devotee to catch him, and that love, and within the context of this relationship between mother and child, that is enabling this devotee to not give up, right? And so once he has that inclination, then he basically slows down and he allows Mother Yashoda to catch hold of him. So now Krishna has been caught hold of Mother Yashoda. So what? So Mother Yashoda takes hold of his hand, pulls him to where there's this huge grinding motor, and says, hang in there, Krishna, don't go anywhere, okay? I'm going to go ahead and tie you to this, and you better not go anywhere. So Krishna, at that point of time, plays the role of a very, very terrified child. And he starts crying and weeping and so on. In the midst of all this, some other people have already come in. Some of the gopis are also in that place, but they're looking at it from afar. And so, and some of those gopis' kids have also come in. So Krishna is like, looking at those kids like that, like side glancing like this, and he's laughing. And then as soon as he catches hold of Mother Yashoda looking at him, he pretends to cry like that, and then again side glances and he's laughing. So there is this amazing mischievous exchange that happens between Krishna and his friends, as well as Krishna and Mother Yashoda and some of those elder gopis. So as the story goes, as most of us know, Mother Yashoda first brings out this very nice silken rope and ties it around Krishna's belly. But in the process of tying it, she falls 2 fingers short. And so she gets a bigger piece of rope and silken rope, and she takes those 2 ropes together. Now it's a longer rope, and she tries to tie that. And again, it's exactly 2 fingers too short. And everybody's amazed, like, how can that be the case? And so then the process begins where first those silken ropes are brought, then some of the beautiful, wonderful saris and other nice garments that she has, those are actually brought into the picture. And so the desire of those saris and those garments to personally serve the Lord and associate with the Lord is also fulfilled. But then that doesn't really help. And so then she starts bringing other ropes, the ropes that are used to tie these yogurt pots and these butter pots and so on and so forth. Those are brought. That doesn't help. And then she graduates into coarser material. And this is where the ropes for tying the cows, which are really thick ropes, very rough ropes, those are also brought into the picture. And so they are also tied together, and eventually their desire is also fulfilled to serve the Lord, to reciprocate with the Lord personally, on a personal basis, okay? And then even that doesn't help. And while this is going on, she's getting more and more and more tired. And other gopis and so on, they're saying, okay, come on, we can help this. And they're like, no, this is my child. I'm going to discipline him. If there's somebody who disciplines him, then it will be me, and so on and so forth. And she's getting even more and more and more exhausted with every time. And, her the pallu of her sari is is coming down. So she takes off her that kamarband kind of a thing, and she ties it. And even that doesn't help. But then the desire of that kamarband is also fulfilled of personally associating with the Lord. And then finally, while she's doing all this, she's sweating, and her hair basically comes loose, and her hairpin falls, at the lotus feet of the Lord. And so the hairpin's desire is also fulfilled on how to personally associate and reciprocate with the Lord. And while all of this goes on, Krishna realizes how much of love and endeavor his pure devotee, his mother, in this rasa, in this Vatsalya rasa, is exercising. And his heart is filled with love and this intense desire to reciprocate back with his mother. And he's thinking, okay, what is my mother's desire right now? What is her intense desire right now? And her intense desire right now is to tie me up. And so he's like, okay, I will fulfill her desire, because this is what the essence of Bhakta Vatsalya really is. It is not just fulfilling the Lord's desire, but it's also fulfilling the desire of the pure devotee of the Lord. And so the Lord, therefore, then fulfills her desire by allowing her to tie him up. Okay, so the story, of course, goes on, and we must have heard the continuation of this with the liberation of Nalakuveda and Hanigriva. But maybe for the duration of our lecture, we can stop at this point and just contemplate on what is it that the Damodar Leela really tells us. So one, it gives us a unique insight into the the unique psyche of the Lord, that how much pleasure the Lord gets in reciprocating with his pure devotees. So if their desire is to serve the Lord in a certain capacity, in a certain relationship, in this case, the relationship was Vatsalya Ras, plus it was Shantaras, through all the desires of all those entities, the hairpin, the kamarband, the flowers, the garlands, the ropes, and so on and so forth. Then the Lord also reciprocates by fulfilling those desires, those pure desires of all of those entities, of all of those jivas. That's one. And the second thing is, the Lord is also always looking for ways to let us know that, hey, you don't give up. Just continue to endeavor. And if you continue to endeavor in the right frame of mind, in the right spirit, with the right attitude, then at a certain point of time, you will be able to have this personal relationship with me. Okay? And most of the acharyas that we have seen in our line have commented on those two fingers of endeavor and mercy. And they've said that one is not complete without the other. So one, while theoretically and technically and even practically also, one can be completely kripasiddha, one can completely be liberated and enlightened entirely through mercy. But the expectation is that one exercises endeavor to one's full capacity at any given point of time in order to be the recipient of that mercy. Okay, that's the other thing. Okay, so I'm going to pause for a couple of minutes and invite comments about this section, and then we will now then graduate into the other section, which is what can we do? What does Damodar mean to us? What can we do to celebrate it in our life, and what can we do to celebrate as a congregation? Okay. So, any comments or any feedback from at least this part of the section of the Damodar Leela?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes.
Sorry. I just wanted to say I was just so captivated by your description of the Damodar Leela. I had never heard that at all, and it gave me so much more insight into the meaning and the whole just the whole experience, the whole idea of it. And so I wanted to thank you for that so much. I don't necessarily have a question, but it really helps me understand that. Thank you.
Sure, Mataji. Yeah, it's beautiful. And I don't really think I did justice to this. I think if we were to read some of those advanced commentaries, and especially if we were to listen to these commentaries from senior Vaishnavas and Maharajas, then we'll be able to relish it more and more. And if we were to somehow ever get the opportunity to hear of this in the month of Kartik, in, let us say, the Holy Dham, let's say in Vrindavan or something, then that will be literally the icing on the cake. So, yeah.
Well, me being just a very beginner neophyte, this is fascinating to me, and it just brings it so much more meaning to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. Okay. All right. Any other comments or any feedback on this?
Prabhu, you were mentioning how the flowers and the rope, their feelings, their emotions. So can you tell us, in the spiritual world, of course it's a spiritual world, no one knows, but exactly what's happening there. But in terms of your hearing on this narration, is everything in the spiritual world alive? And if it is, is every petal a different soul? Is every flower a different soul? Is a plant a different soul? How does it all, how can we appreciate this phenomenon?
Yeah, no, that's such a good question. And, even I wanted to learn more about the spiritual world. I think yesterday we were having our Bhakti Shastri course class with Tirthakara Prabhu, and I was asking him, Prabhu, can you suggest a good book or a good literature, piece of literature, which can give us more insight and more beautiful description of the spiritual world. And he suggested that we read the Bhagavatamrita, Sanatana Goswami's book, in which Gopakumar goes to the realm of spiritual planets, and he has certain observations as well as certain experiences, personal experiences and exchanges with life over there. And those descriptions are very beautiful and vivid. But broadly speaking, yes. So in the spiritual world, everything is spirit, right? Everything is spiritual. So there is no material concept. So let's say Krishna's dhoti, for example. Over here, it would be, well, Krishna's dhoti is always transcendental, but let's say our dhoti over there would be, not necessarily material. It would be spiritual completely. And also over here, we have limitations of form. So, one can, a particular entity can have only one form at any given point of time. For example, this glass will have the form of the glass. But in the spiritual world, it could be a glass in one instance, and then once that service is over, it could be, it could be a piece of cloth, and then once that is over, it could be a rasgulla. Once that is over, it could be. So there is this fluidity from the form perspective. Okay, so that's another thing to keep in mind. There was one additional thing which I recently heard. I think it was also from Tirthakara Prabhu, where he was saying the mood of living entities, even when they are serving the Lord in Golok Vrindavan, in a certain capacity which is not necessarily Madhurya. For example, his clothes, which is supposed to be in Shantaras, and so on and so forth. Still, the mood is actually Madhurya mood and not necessarily Shanta mood. So the way of serving could be Shantaras, but the mood of the service is still Madhurya. And this is a concept which is a little difficult to understand, but I thought that was also very interesting. And that plays into your comment on the emotions of the different entities associated with that service. Okay.
Srivas,
All right,
so I'll move on.
Sure, Prabhu.
Srivas, is everything in the spiritual world is a conscious, and you mentioned Rasagula. So if the Rasagula is a bhakta, and I will eat this Rasagula, what will happen?
So you will be very happy, is what will happen, Prabhu.
I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing you. One devotee asked Srila Prabhupada this question.
Okay.
Srila Prabhupada
What was Srila Prabhupada's response? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
He said you have to go there to see yourself.
Okay. I would assume that one would be happy to eat a rasgulla in any circumstance, but especially in the spiritual world. Yeah. Okay. All right, so I'll move forward. So now we'll talk about what is it that we can do. Let's first talk about individually what we can do. Okay. But while we are deciding what we can do, we need to also back it up with why are we doing what we are saying that we can do, right? What's the driving force behind it? Because otherwise somebody can say that, well, as long as you put Krishna in the center of anything, you can do that. Well, that's great. So let me go ahead and dig a ditch over the next whole month. And all I'll do is, like, one day I'll dig the ditch, second day I'll fill the ditch, third day I'll dig the ditch, fourth day I'll fill the ditch, and so on and so forth. And every single time I'm digging or filling, I'm just going to think of Krishna. And is that okay? And is that great? Well, theoretically, that's okay, but does it really achieve the outcome that we are trying to achieve? And so that brings us the question of output versus outcome. So when we are putting some thought into an endeavor, we must think about, this is the outcome I want to achieve. And these are the outputs that of different tasks that will help me achieve that outcome. Okay? And just keep this in mind, and we will, when we talk through some of the things that we can do, this point will probably become clearer. So with that being said, let me go ahead and share my screen. I created this spreadsheet, and this might help. Okay, and I will share this link also with others. And here you go. Can somebody just confirm that they're able to see this?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. You can see.
Okay. All right, perfect. Okay. So what can we do? All right. So, well, we can do some reading, chanting, hearing, singing, worshiping, praying. But why would we do any of those things? Well, we would do any of this. And for this, I created this, I put this link out there so that we can see where it takes us. And this one, of course, most of us know what it is, but nevertheless, I'll still go ahead and pull this up. And this one will take you to what Prahlad Maharaj is saying as the 9 processes of devotional service, right? Hold on. Let me move this up. This will be easier. Okay, the 9 processes of devotional service. So is there anybody in this call who does not know about the 9 processes of devotional service? And then maybe then we can go through it. Otherwise, if we know, then we'll just talk about how to inculcate them into our life in the month of Kartik. All right. So now let's go back to our list and let's talk about specifics that we can do. So this is where what you're writing on and what you're writing with come in handy. So first write reading, and now figure out in that 30 days time, let's put on at least 2 books of Srila Prabhupada, small books of Prabhupada, that we think that we can go ahead and read and really study in its entirety. It could be any book that we are comfortable with. It could be a book as small as Sri Upanishad, or it could be something a little bit more tactical, like Nectar of Instruction. It could be a little bit more philosophical, like Nectar of Devotion. It could be a little bit more, utilitarian, like the Bhagavad Gita, and so on and so forth. But think about a couple of different books that one can go ahead and read. And I'm going to pause for a minute while you do this. And in my, what I would like to put over here is Science of Self-Realization. I read that quite a few times, the last time I read it was quite a few years ago. And just the other day, today, I was planning to give this book to somebody. And then I took that book out and I was just going through it. And I realized that I actually forgot a lot of what is put over there. And I realized that that book is so important because when we are having conversations with other people and they're asking us questions, then that book allows us to answer those questions in a very concise way and also in a very precise way. So I really I would personally like to read that book again, Science of Self-Realization, but actually study it during this time. In addition to that, I want to also read at least one section, so the Madhya Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay, Madhya Chaitanya. So similarly, I would like you guys to also write this down, what you would want to read during this 30 days. Okay. All right. So now we'll go into the next one, which is chanting. Now, some of us have already taken a vow to chant a certain number of rounds. It could be 16 rounds. It could be, 4 rounds, 8 rounds, whatever it is. So there are 2 aspects to chanting that one can improve on. One, the quality of our chanting. And I cannot overstate the importance of this. If the quality of our chanting becomes better, then our desire to chant more becomes automatically manifested, because then we are able to relish the rounds that we are chanting. If our quality is inferior, then simply increasing the quantity is very, very limited, negligible to no benefit. Okay, right? And so maybe one of the vows that we can take over here is at least X number, X percentage of our rounds, we will consciously try to chant properly. And I can put over here, let's say 50% of my rounds, and it could be any percentage that you can think of that you want to commit to, that you want to chant properly. Okay? The other aspect of chanting is, if possible, during this 30 days, we can increase the number of rounds that we want to chant, okay? If you're comfortable with that, right? Most of us are aware that of the increased benefit that one gets by doing a little bit more austerity and a lot more endeavor during this month of Kartik, right? And the two-finger principle is applicable over here as well. So if there is some way that we can extend ourselves, chant 1 extra round, chant 2 extra rounds, whatever it is, that will be great. But I leave it up to you. Okay. From my sake, I will not be chanting any extra rounds during Kartik. I want to increase the quality of my chanting with whatever rounds I'm chanting. Okay. All right. I was just giving everybody time to write this down. So when this lecture ends, you should have a piece of paper which is completely filled with everything that you've written down. So you have a blueprint of what you're going to do for this 30 days. The third thing is hearing. Now, there are two aspects also to hearing. One, increasing one's capacity to hear, increasing one's duration of hearing, and also to hear from the right folks, the right people, the right Vaishnavas, okay, the right devotees, okay. So the way I would approach this is I would say, all right, you know what, once a week, just once a week. So that means entire net maybe 4 or 5 times, depending upon when we are starting in the month of Kartik. I am going to listen to one live lecture from one of the senior Vaishnavas. And I'm going to actually, when I'm listening to that, at that point of time, I leave everything aside. I will have a piece of paper and something over here. So I'm making points about what this person is talking about. I will be completely immersed in that hour and a half to 2 hours of that lecture. Okay. And this lecture should not be my weekend lecture. This could be any other day other than that Sunday lecture. So one additional day essentially, and I will actively participate. If there are questions that come to my mind, without hesitation, I will be asking those questions. So I will join actually a session like a Zoom session or something where I have the ability to interact with that lecturer. And it could be somebody like Vaisheshika Prabhu. It could be so many Maharajas nowadays give lecture. I know for a fact, for example, Giriraj Swami is giving lectures. Rana Swami Maharaj is giving lectures. Well, pretty much at this point of time, everybody is giving a lecture or not in every single day. So there is no dearth of opportunities for us to associate with a senior Vaishnava during this period of time. But make it that this is the day of the week, and I will be doing this. And for my sake, I actually want to do it at least twice a week. So I want to do it on Monday and on Wednesday. Okay. All right. And during these 2 days, I will find out who is talking and what topic. I'll participate in that and I will hear from them. Okay. The next thing is singing. Now, there are 2 ways also that we can do this. One, we can put on some kirtan or some bhajan for a certain duration of our time every day, or we can also sing one kirtan or bhajan from ourselves, during the week, or, well, actually, then more than 2, is we would want to learn a kirtan or bhajan or tune, something like that. Okay, so I want to over here, for my sake, learn a new bhajan. And I've already made up my mind that I want to learn Bhaja Huremana. Okay? So think about something. It could be Yashomati Nandana, 4 lines, 6 lines. It could be, Sri Chaitanya, Dayakoro More. It could be Radha Krishna Pranmora. It could be, so those are bhajans. Or it could be a specific kirtan that you want to sing. It could be the Gaur Aarti. It could be Guru Puja. Whatever it is, think about something new that passed after that on the 31st day, right after Kartik ends. You already know this by heart. And you're able to then sing it melodiously, sweetly, and with full attention and emotion. Okay? So that's one. The other parts, which is leaving some kirtan on in your house for a certain duration of time, or putting, going to YouTube and putting on a bhajan or kirtan, I leave it up to you. That is always so wonderful. It changes the entire atmosphere of the house. It orients one's consciousness in a different way. You will see that you're shouting less at your spouse or at your kids, and instead you are going into more of a sattvic mode and probably into a transcendental mood as well, and so on. But this is quite important. This really helps in the psyche, getting us in the right frame of mind. Okay. Next is worshiping. All right. So maybe for those of us who don't have a regular practice of worshiping, once a week or twice a week, you say, I'm just going to do Tulsi Puja. And I'm going to keep it very simple. I'm going to take one incense stick if I have it. If I don't have an incense stick, I'll take a small candle, a tea light candle. If I don't have a small tea light candle, I'll take a big candle. And somehow or the other, I am going to worship the Tulsi Maharani while singing Tulsi prayers and circumambulating Tulsi. This is just one example of what we can do. If you would want to do something different, then that's even better. For example, you might say, you know what, once a week, I'm going to clean up the altar in my place. I'm going to put some new flowers out there. I'm also going to, at that point, once I clean it up, I'm going to arrange my deities or my altar in a very attractive way. And it could be just pictures. It need not be, maybe we don't actually have deities, but I'm going to arrange them in a particular way, following the right parampara. And maybe if I don't have time to do all that or don't have the inclination to all that, at least then maybe I can read a PDF which talks about how to do deity service in our home. And that PDF is available. I'll send that to Gopal Hari Prabhu if he doesn't already have it, and he can distribute it to all of us. But this is one baby step that we can take. For those who are already there, we can figure out how to increase the quality of our worship. So it's not just about the paraphernalia that we are using to worship the Lord, but it is also our emotion. So we might even say that, well, while we are worshiping the Lord, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, we will make a conscious effort to be completely present and absolutely emotionally invested during that worshiping process. Okay? So when we are offering the flower, when we are offering the incense, when we are offering the lamp, at that point of time, we are thinking about the Lord. We are expressing our gratitude to the Lord. We're expressing our love for the Lord. So that increases the depth of our worshiping. So for my sake, I would like to say that I want to increase the depth of that worship process by at least 50% of the time. Okay? And the same thing applies to our prayers. So there are different aspects, again, of prayers, because none of these are very simple, right? So one aspect of prayers is, at least for my sake, I want to learn how to pray. Learn to pray. Okay? I don't always know how to pray. Sometimes I'm just standing in front of the deities, like, my dear Lord, thank you for everything. You're so kind, you're so generous, you're so loving. You've done so much for me. And by the way, this is this other thing. If you so desire, can you make it happen? That's a prayer, no doubt about that. But now when you read some of the prayers which are there in Bhagavatam, the prayers of such elevated Vaishnavas like Mother Kunti, Queen Kunti, and the prayers that even Bharat has, Rama's brother, towards when he goes to try to convince Ramchandra to come back, and even at other levels of prayers, for example, the prayer that Gajendra has, okay, where he's not necessarily sure who the Lord is, but he still goes ahead and gives his and articulates his prayers to the best of his capacity. Okay, and there are so many different aspects of prayers, but let us see, at least from my perspective, I want to see how these different personalities are praying. What is going on in their minds? What are they talking about in their prayers? What is Prahlad Maharaj saying when he's praying to Nrsimhadev? What are all these eminent personalities thinking of? What are they desiring from the Lord, and so on? Okay, and want to inculcate some of those, at least inculcate the learning from some of those prayers. So that's one. Number two is, every night, I want to at least take a couple of minutes, not a lot, just a couple of minutes, to just reveal my heart to the Lord, that this is what is really going on. Not that the Lord is not aware of it, but the Lord is wanting to hear it from me. It's giving also the Lord an opportunity to reciprocate with me, at a very personal basis. So this revelation of the heart is very, very important, because this improves the quality of our relationship with the Lord. Okay, so this is another thing that I at least wanted to do, but you can write down however you want it. Okay. All right, so this is the first section. The second section is, well, what else can we do? Can we call some devotees and find out how they're doing? Can we write down the names of 2 devotees every week? We are not talking about a lot. Just 2 devotees every week, but not the same devotees, so that we are now talking about 8 different devotees. We say, every week, I'm going to call these 2 devotees and simply find out how they're doing, what is really going on in their life. What are their challenges? I want to just be this active listener, okay, and improve my relationship over there. But why would I do that? Because I want to follow the instructions given in the Nectar of Instruction, chapter 4, Dadati Pratikriyanti. So the translation is, offering gifts in charity, accepting charitable gifts, revealing one's mind is confidence, inquiring confidentially, accepting prasadam, offering prasadam. 6 ways that one can exchange reciprocate lovingly with other devotees. Okay, so taking a leaf from here, this is what I want to do. I want to call devotees, and I want to listen to them and give them an opportunity also to reveal their heart to me. Miranda Mataji was saying sometime back, before this class just started, I think, that, hey, she's moving to New Vrindavan. This is fantastic. What an incredible opportunity. And so I want to talk to her, and I really want to, and find out, like, okay, what happened, what transpired, what are you going to do over there, what services are you planning to engage in, where are you going to stay, how are you going to eat, what's the family situation going to be like, is everybody going to be accepting of this, and so on and so forth. And of course, you can't do this with somebody who you don't even have a relationship with. That will be a little weird. But once we start having these kind of discussions, then our relationship will become deeper and deeper and be more improved, that we can get to that part that we can have this kind of discussion with. Okay. Similarly, so for my sake, I was planning to call one devotee every day, okay, and talk to them. Okay? Next is distributing prasadam. Well, doesn't matter what you make. So you can make a salad, you can make some cookies, you can make some Indian food, you can make some non-Indian, some international food. If you have nothing to, if you are not really comfortable cooking, that's all right. So then also there are other opportunities to distribute prasadam. For example, if you're going to a temple like Columbus or New Vrindavan or something and you get some sweets, things like that. Okay. But perhaps once a week, and of course one has to be mindful of the pandemic, not exactly sure how this will work out, but once a week, you make it a point that I'm going to create this prasadam, whatever, this one dish, and I'm going to give it to this one devotee. Okay? And it will be great if this devotee is not the same devotee that I'm calling up every day or calling up once or twice a week, or that I'm interacting with in an otherwise basis, right? If that is also a big problem, then no problem. So then make it twice in the entire month of Kartik, or even once in the entire month of Kartik. I'm going to invite a couple of people over, or if I'm not comfortable with that, I'm going to then make something and give it to them. Okay, this is very important actually, because distributing prasadam allows us to interact in multiple different layers. So one is, you're not just going to go into the street and give random people food, right? So the whole act of sharing some food with somebody, breaking bread with somebody, it means that there is a degree of intimacy involved. So one is that. The second thing is the act of prasadam itself is not different from Krishna. So when we are giving prasadam, sharing prasadam with somebody, we are actually sharing Krishna with that person. Okay, and that itself is a very elevated way of interacting with another devotee. There are other aspects, of course. Who doesn't like some prasadam? Is there anybody over here who's going to say that, well, hey, I'm going to sign up for this service where you're going to call me every day and give me a lecture for 10 minutes on how best I have to lead my life? Okay, nobody will put their hand up, or very few people will put their hand up, right? But you ask the same group, hey, is there anybody over here willing to sign up that twice a week that they will be getting some free food from some other folks? It doesn't matter who it is and what kind of food is coming. Everybody will be putting their hand up. It's a very pleasant way to reciprocate. Okay, so that's the thing. So for my sake, I was going to put once a week, invite devotees over for prasadam. Or if they're not comfortable coming over because of the pandemic, or send them prasadam, or deliver them, not send. Okay. Next is giving gifts. So the Bhagavad Gita talks about charity done in different ways. Of course, within devotional service, none of those ways applies to us because these are transcendental to the mode of ignorance, goodness, and passion. Giving gifts, there is, if you were to ask a group like, hey, who doesn't like to receive gifts? I don't know. I don't know who's going to put their hands up. But giving gifts also allows us to reciprocate at a very intimate level, at a very loving level. And this is why Rupa Goswami's Nectar of Instruction is so practical. And it's encased in philosophy, but at the same time, it's a very practical way for us to improve our spiritual life. And so when he talks about in Nectar of Instruction that, giving gifts and receiving gifts is one of those ways that one can lovingly exchange, have loving exchanging relationship with devotees. It's so important. So this I leave up to you, how you want to give gifts. In my mind, charity always begins at home. So look around you and look to see that, are there people that you can, within your family, within your immediate circle, that you can reciprocate with. Then also look at other aspects like their needs and the relationship that one has with them and so on and so forth, and then decide accordingly of how to do charity. But what you can walk out of this particular session is you say that twice this month I will be giving some gifts. Or it could be once a month if you're comfortable, but do it at least once this whole month. Okay? All right. So then the next section is understanding instructions of spiritual master and following the instructions of the spiritual master. And why are we doing it? Because of this. If somebody was to ask you today at the end of the session that, hey, you spent an hour and a half, 2 hours listening to this guy ramble around, what did you get out of it? Then I would like you to quote this. If there's one thing that you would walk out of today's session with, then it would be this shloka. Because this is the essence of how one can make rapid progress, sustained progress in their spiritual life. Yasya deve parabhakti yatha deve tatha guru tasyate katita hi artha prakashante mahatmanaha. So those great souls who have implicit faith in who? Yasya deve parabhakti yatha deve tatha guru. Yatha deve tatha guru. Just both the Lord, deve tatha guru, in the spiritual master. So to that person, all the intimate learnings, the knowledge of spiritual life, of transcendental life, transcendental knowledge, they're automatically revealed. Now, let's get some evidence of this. If you look at within our movement, within our lineage, parampara, Ishwar Puri, how he served his spiritual master, Madhavendra Puri. Then you look at, okay, fine, they are very senior Vaishnavas, probably Nitya Siddhas and so on. So let's come to Srila Prabhupada and below. So Srila Prabhupada, understanding the import of his spiritual master, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, and he, having met him only a few times, I think less than a dozen times or something like that, and yet taking his instructions completely to heart, and then following those instructions as if his life and soul depended on it. Then a lot of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, whether you take somebody like, Giriraj Maharaj, Rana Swami Maharaj, Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, Tamal Krishna Goswami. I mean, I don't want to single out anybody. It's not a question of omitting anyone. It's like just aligning a lot of this example after example after example after example after example, whose only goal was whatever Srila Prabhupada wants, we are going to do it. Srila Prabhupada had many disciples, many disciples. But the ones who progressed the most, who became the most advanced Vaishnavas within our movement, were the ones who basically demonstrated this principle. And if you now look so further extend the lineage, so senior disciples of these gurus, senior disciples of Rana Swami Maharaj, senior disciples of Giriraj Maharaj, senior disciples of Bhaktitirtha Swami Maharaj, and so on and so forth, you will see that they also embody this principle, that whatever Rana Swami Maharaj's mood is, whatever his desire is, I'm going to be doing that. Whatever, Giriraj Maharaj's desire is and his mood is, I'm going to be doing that. This is very important. This is for those of us, especially who have been initiated. One, try to find out what is the mood of the spiritual master. Request for special instructions or specific instructions if we don't already have any. Okay, if that is not possible, then their senior disciples will be able to guide us. For those who are not yet initiated, Srila Prabhupada is Jagat Guru. Try to follow the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. Many of us, it's not it's not a secret about what Srila Prabhupada really wanted out of this movement. If it's too difficult, well, go with the path of least resistance. So Srila Prabhupada wanted more books to be distributed. Srila Prabhupada wanted, a nice atmosphere within the house where a particular set of programs, or within a temple community really, but let's say within our house, where a particular set of programs is done consistently and daily with the right frame of mind. And now embody how much of this one can within our capacity. Okay, you try to extend beyond your capacity, you'll fall down. So better understand one's capacity and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do in this month of Kartik. Okay? All right. All right. I'll pause for 1 minute and invite questions and comments, and then I'll go quickly to the next section, and we'll try to wrap that last section up in 10 or 12 minutes max. Otherwise, your money back. All right. So comments or questions on this second section?
This was very helpful, Prabhu. Very, very nice. Just the way you put this in an Excel sheet and laid everything out, it actually did inspire me to actually think about doing certain things. You know, the time comes and all of a sudden the month comes and then we're thinking, what should we do? And month has already started. This is something very nice to think about. We have about 10 days to plan what we want to do to increase our devotional service during that month. It's very nice.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. And this method is not foreign to any of us. We do that all our life. When we are students in school, we have a timetable. There is no student over here who will say that, hey, I've never had a timetable in my whole life. I don't really know what to do. I just show up for school and then I just come back home. No. So be very methodical. Our Goswamis have also taught us through their example how many times they would bow down, how many times they would pray, how many times they would chant. Everything is recorded. Everything, what you can't measure, you can't improve. So yes, let's go through that. Let's put the plan in place and then let's work the plan. Okay. All right. So our last section. Now, what can we do as a congregation? All right. So this is what I was thinking, and this applies to all of us who are in this call. So in our call, we have congregation from Cincinnati and from Indianapolis at the very least, and we also have some folks from Louisville. At least we have Mathura Priya Prabhu. I don't know whether anybody else from Louisville has joined, right? So, starting on 31st of October, Halloween Day, that's month of Kartik starts, right up to November 30th, right? Okay. So I think it's 31 days. At 8 o'clock in the evening, we'll have a Zoom session. This is a proposal. This is not a commitment. So over the next week, let me know if this is something that we can do in those two congregations. If we cannot, we can do different flavors of it in each congregation. We congregate. Now, 8 o'clock means 8 o'clock. It doesn't mean 8:01. Okay, so it could be 7:59, could be 7:58. But the reason it has to be at a certain time and not later than that is because many of these evenings are going to be weekdays. So we have to be practical about those things. Otherwise, come like the second week, people will start dropping off, and they'll be like, you know what, this takes too long. Our kid has to go to sleep. It's already 9 o'clock by the time this ends, and then people linger on. And so, I might skip. And once you skip one day, you'll skip the second day and third day, and then very soon you're just gone. So we have to put some discipline and structure around this program and stick to that. 8 o'clock to 8:05. Whoever is doing Kirtan, if you're doing it on a Zoom session, you're doing it in front of a laptop or a phone. That has a time right in front of you. At 8:05, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. That's it. Kirtan ends. Okay? Then we do a 10-minute katha. Katha is very important because that establishes the Lord. Whenever we're talking about Krishna, Krishna is there in front of us. We are doing Damodar. if we can talk about like halwas and prasadams and whatnot, it's not the same. We have to be talking about, there has to be an element of katha over here. And we can talk about the same katha again and again. You know, the Damodar, it will not get old. We can talk about different aspects of it, realizations from it, something that we've heard, something somebody else has mentioned, that katha, but 10 minutes, okay, we'll time box it. Then Damodar Ashtakam. So during Damodar Ashtakam, this is a dual event, because where somebody is singing Damodar Ashtakam over here, whereas everybody else in their own houses, while also singing along, is offering the lamb at this point of time. It takes about 7 or 9, 8 minutes to do Damodar Ashtakam. We put it over here for 10 minutes, okay? So people will light the lamp, then take out the lamp. People will make sure they're not burning down the house, and so on and so forth, okay? Namam Ishwaram Sachet Ananda Rupam, and then and so on and so forth, okay? And then the final thing is Gopi Geet. Gopi Geet is within, so I'm going to just digress for a couple of minutes. As many of us know, the Bhagavatam is a representation, is a literally representation of the Lord. And the Gopi Geet portion of it, so the entire 10th chapter is, 10th canto is a representation of Krishna's lotus face, and the Gopi Geet is a representation of his beautiful smile. It is the essence of Bhagavatam, okay, because it talks about what in our Gauriya Vaishnava philosophy is the highest philosophy of love, which is love in separation, okay? And even just the way this entire chapter, so 10th canto, chapter 31, the way this is written tells us that there is something special going on. Because you know how when we go through Bhagavad Gita, we either go through, you know, one meter or the other. So that's 1 meter, and the other meter is Prabhu, you might know the exact Sanskrit for this meters. I used to know, I forgot about it. Anyhow, but Gopi Geet is written in a very special meter. Tava kathamritam tapta jivanam. Like that. So this meter is called the Rajhansa meter. And the Rajhansa meter is the king of the swans. And the swan doesn't go like you know, straight like a duck would or something else would. It sways so beautifully and gracefully up and down and side by side and so on and so forth. Now it goes to the right, then it goes to the left, and then to right again, while it goes straight ahead. Like that. It's so beautiful, it's so melodious. But there is a reason why this was written in this meter. I mean, if we were to take an effort and remember an entire chapter in our own mind, it would be very, very, very difficult for us, unless it is a melodious song. It is easier for us to remember a song. You'll have these beautiful songs, all that we hear in our lives, even mundane songs, that we remember the entire lyrics to, even if they're like 3 paragraphs, 4 paragraphs, 5 paragraphs long. Why is this so easy for us to remember them? Because we can recite the melody. We can understand, we can inculcate that melody in our heart. And this gives us a clue of how important this entire chapter is. It was written as if it's such a beautiful song. It will remain in our heart. And also, metaphorically speaking, why is it written in like Raja Hans then? Because what do swans have that no other animal has? They have the ability to extract the cream from the milk. So they can identify the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme, right? So the author here is giving us this very poignant hint that, guys, this is the essence of it. Okay, and I made it easy for you to remember this. So keep this in your heart. If you don't remember anything else, but you live your life with this melody in your mind, you've got the cream of the crop. But nothing else to worry about, nothing else to look forward to. So this is Gopi Geet. Okay? So I can guarantee you, if we properly sing the Gopi Geet consistently over a certain length of time, when at night when we go to sleep, that music is going to keep humming into our head, you know? So that's the thing. So anyway, so we should do this. So this is a short program. It's not entirely short. It's still about 35 minutes, and it'll probably for the first few days go into 40 or 45 minutes. But with a little bit of practice and organization, we can definitely shrink it down to 35 minutes. So as a congregation, we do this every single day without fail. On the 31st day, we will miss it like crazy. We'll be like, my gosh, I wish the month of Kartik had not ended. You know, I just miss coming together and doing this again. Okay? All right, so I went over my time. So please forgive me for that. Questions or comments, anything else from any other feedback from anyone?
Prabhu, this is wonderful. Let's do this. I really do think that this is and you know, Mathura Priya Prabhu is here also. He can also chime in and tell us. But I think you know, if we all because of the times that we're in, normally we would do it physically together, but because of the COVID, if we during this month, as you were saying, we must sing Damodar Rasaka every day. So if we do it together, and it'll be very inspiring for everyone and encouraging. And then I guess the boxes that you have is there that people can sign up. So like, someone's doing this, someone's doing that, like that.
That is exactly correct. That is exactly correct. And this will allow all of us to engage in service. It will, and believe me, after a few days, it will allow all of us to get closer to each other. You know, we will know who is who and so on and so forth. And, oh, you know what, Hemanti, you sing very well. And such, oh, I really liked your katha. Oh, I love the way you decorated the altar. This, that, it improves the quality of our relationship. At the end of the day, we have as a movement, we will not be able to progress properly unless we have these deep, lasting relationships amongst ourselves. This has been the theme of many of my topics, of my classes, but these are the practical ways that one can actually develop these relationships. Okay, so yes, so to your point, Prabhu, I am going to go ahead and share this sheet. I think I sent it earlier to you, but I'm going to paste it over here. And then I'll open this up. This is already open. Anybody who has the link can reflect on this over the next, few hours, few days, whatever. Start putting your names around this. Okay. And
now, Prabhu, just in terms of the timing, one thing that I was going to ask you is a lot of the East Coast Zoom classes, they start at 8 in the evening. So for me, it's no problem. I'm in Evansville time, and it's no problem. So, but just for your benefit also and others, like, is the 8 o'clock time, is it good, or maybe it should be half an hour earlier at 7:30, or maybe at 9 o'clock? It's very hard these days because there's so much going on. But I do know at least a few people in our congregation that listen, for example, to Jayaveta Maharaj's classes Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 o'clock. So that was just the only thing, that the time, would it clash with other things? And others can chime in on that. And maybe the last thing is the initial kirtan. Like if we want to make it even more tight, maybe we just have 3 things, like Katha, Damodar Rasika. After that, we do a little Hare Krishna, Gopi Geet, maybe, but maybe the kirtan is important. But just going to your comment that it could go over, I think it's important we keep it to half an hour so that people come every day. Otherwise, if it gets long, they may start skipping. So these were.
Yeah, I agree with both points, Prabhu. Yes, 7:30 is fine. So the way I was thinking, why I was thinking 8 o'clock is one, we want to allow people to finish their dinner, get
Yes.
everything else squared away, out of the way. Number two, there might be different families with kids that they have to think about, this homework, that thing. So get all of those things also squared away, because believe me, after this program, no kid will say that, oh, okay, I'm not ready to do my homework, that kind of thing. It's not going to happen. Okay. Then the last thing we want to do is, after this program is done, many of the folks might want to say, okay, now we're going to go to sleep. And so this should be the last thing. And it would be great if this is the last thing that's in their mind before they take rest. So, but that being said, I still do understand the challenges with other programs, especially with Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj's program. So we can figure out what works best. And I'm open to obviously other suggestions as well.
Yeah, no, 8 o'clock is fine. I just thought I should just bring that up in case someone else also had a strong idea or feeling regarding it. But Maharaj just speaks on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So, any time is ultimately not going to work for everyone. So on different days, people might, juggle different things.
Completely understand. Yep. Okay. Any other questions or comments from anyone else?
Hey Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
I love hearing you speak. You're so animated, and every time I just get something new out of your stories. So thank you. I just wanted to briefly share my reflection. So I felt like the importance of the Damodara Leela from your telling of it is that, and your suggestions afterwards with this amazing structure that you've set up for us to better ourselves. Krishna shows us in this Leela how important it is to check in with ourselves and with others. So, when he's running from Mother Yashoda and he finally sees, you said, whenever she's sweating and her hairpin drops, and he says, oh, she's really trying hard to tie me. I should allow her, I should grant her deepest desire. Sometimes it's really important to ask ourselves from a humble perspective, what it is that we need to give up. So whether it be pride or something for someone else's happiness, and in turn, it betters you and your relationship with the other person. So I just thought it was such an elegant structure of the class, and the way that you told the story, and then giving us such a wonderful prompt. I'm all about journaling and self-improvement. So thank you. Hare Krishna.
No, thank you so much, Mataji, Brandy Mataji. Really appreciate that. And you're absolutely right. Those were some great reflections that you had. Yes, you're right. The only thing I would say is Krishna is also, at the end of the day, is completely independent. So we can do whatever we can from our perspective to try to attract him. And then we can hope for his mercy. We can beg for his mercy. And then it's ultimately up to him to show us that mercy.
Hare Krishna, this is Giri. Maybe you already told about it. So is it 7? I mean, is it 8 o'clock EST? I mean, Eastern time or?
Yeah, these are all Eastern times.
Okay.
Yeah. So you remember, Giridhar Prabhu, when we were doing this last year, we would do it also at 8 o'clock. We would do it in person in different people's houses. The advantage of doing it in other people's houses is you get some free prasadam, and also, it adds that additional dynamic where you're meeting people, you're exchanging prasadam. It's just different kind of a cultural experience almost every single day, right? And also it allows us to extend ourselves in a little bit of austerity, because you're having to go to somebody's house. The weather is going to be not always very pleasant during this time of the year, right? So there are many different dynamics that come into play when you do it in person. But anyway, it is what it is during pandemic. We can still do it like this.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions or comments from anyone before we conclude?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Yes, Mathura Priya Prabhu. Is that you?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu. Tell me.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for allowing this particular thing you have included: chanting, hearing, singing, and worshipping. So all the Navda Bhakti you have led down the path, and now definitely, like, I wrote something about what I'm going to read and chant, and when I will do hearing. So thank you very much for this thing, and definitely, like, we'll sign up in the congregation chant, and the program that will start at 8 o'clock. So thank you very much for giving. Thank you.
So, thank you, Prabhu. And I mean, we're not practicing all the 9. For example, we're not doing Padasevanam, for example, right? So, but yes, whatever we are doing, we are trying to do it very methodically. So we are not going to do something whimsically and say this may or may not work. As we're trying to just follow the instructions which are given to us by through our parampara from Srimad Bhagavatam, as well as from Rupa Goswami and so on. And, you know, so we are putting our trust and faith in those.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhuji.
No, thank you, Prabhu. Okay.
Comment. I think every time you listen to your class, it's so practical, so actionable. So thank you for giving us that piece of advice every time. And then, like you said, I was just recollecting and remembering our time in ISKCON Cincinnati over the last 2-3 years that we've been doing this. It's like it's very, very, very true what you said there. You know, once this ends, you know, we start missing it. The day it ends, we are, all that, you know, national ecstasy that we receive over the month of Kartik, you know, we really miss that once it gets over. But other thing is, the kids, like you said, in the family, everybody, when we keep singing the Damodar Ashtakam, it's so heartening to see, like, everybody, like, you know, little kids in the family, you know, they have learned it by heart now. It's the same thing, so we did the Chora Ashtakam this month, right, for Purushottam month. So 1 month seeing that, you know, it just become now even the Purushottam month ended, we are like, okay, we still want to sing it. So so I really wanted to share that, you know, because what you said is we all miss it so much after that. So we have to take full benefit of this. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I caught some of that, Prabhu, but yes, I agree with everything that you said. Also, you know, there's one interesting thing. I'm just going to talk about a personal experience. It's not the best subject to talk about, but just to make a point. When I got my citizenship and I came in front of the judge at that time, they were like, I don't know, 200 people or something like that, getting their citizenship all on the same day. And the judge says, like, look, we do this every month, I think, or every 2 weeks. But this is one of those occasions that today's particular session is one of that, which I will also remember and you will never forget in your life, because the outside temperature was 7 degrees Fahrenheit. It was that deep freeze, that Arctic blast, which has come and something like that in Cincinnati. So this particular Kartik, because of this pandemic, we will not forget. There will be many Kartiks in our lives, and some of them will be etched in our memory, some of them will not. But this one we will not forget. So if we put in a little bit of effort and just structure ourselves, little austerity we have to make, you know, little bit disorganized we'll be to begin with, but then we will get better. Then we will not forget this. And when we look back into all the Kartiks that we have spent 20 years later or 15 years later, this will be the one that will be etched in our mind. Hey, we did this. Okay? All right. So with all of this being said, let us end by offering Vaishnav Pranam to all of us who are gathered here, without whose reciprocal mercy, it will not be possible for us to progress. It's impossible. Okay? So with that emotion and that understanding, we will unmute ourselves and offer Vaishnav prayer.
Prabhu,
Okay?
just one announcement before that. I'm sorry,
sure,
before
Prabhu.
people leave. The news is sort of, the rapid is already out of the bag, but just to re-emphasize and to say a word of appreciation, which we will do more later on also. Those of you who don't know, Miranda Mataji is moving to New Vrindavan, and this was not an easy decision for her. It was not a easy news for us to digest. She decided to now not have a backup plan, but just surrender everything to Krishna and serve Krishna full time. She's been very, very active in the Indianapolis temple. She's been serving every weekend, construction, accounting, shopping, doing so many innumerable services for the devotees and the temple and Lord Krishna here in Indianapolis. And she's been experiencing a spiritual joy in that service, and not wanting to only be able to do that on the weekends, although everything is service, her job is also service, but wanting to really just now at this time in her life, do it 24 hours, 7 days a week. She's decided to go to New Vrindavan, and initially as a trial, and then it will most likely become permanent, but initially as a trial, and serve there. As many of you know and heard, she's now aspiring from His Holiness Giriraj Swami. So she's one person that we all take great inspiration from, who joined Krishna consciousness later in her life. Here in Indianapolis, she just came one day to the temple and just was like any other person in Indianapolis, joined knowing very little about Krishna consciousness, but then in such a short period, made so much spiritual progress, and really made it her life and soul. And so while this is very, it's a Krishna conscious success story, right? All the way to Vrindavan. New Vrindavan is Vrindavan, Prabhupada said. So it's a Krishna conscious success story, a great matter of celebration. And also for us, it's also a great sadness because we will miss her and miss her wonderful association. But she's also going to be always in touch, especially during this time. Our classes are on Zoom anyway, and also visiting us. All of her family lives in Indianapolis, and her roots are here. So she's also very, she'll still continue being the temple treasurer. She will help us in our accounting, in all the things that she can do from a distance. She will be very active. And Prabhu, one of the people she's gained inspiration from is yourself, because you're her senior godbrother. And so it was a very just day to make this announcement. And so Miranda Mataji, you'll be very greatly missed when you are not here. And your service has been precious. Your association has been precious, and you've worked so hard for this temple. Words cannot say. You know, it's really something that in Krishna's book and in the devotees' book will never ever be forgotten. All the week after week, she's been at the temple painting and carpentry work, things that you wouldn't think a lady of her age would do. She's doing that, and she's managing it, and she's doing it so well. So she's getting a promotion.
Can we spotlight her?
Promotion. Yes.
Yeah. Can you spotlight her? That'll be nice. And we can. There you go. Okay.
Well, this you have to understand, as you said, Gopal Prabhu, this is not an easy thing for me. I just know that I do believe because of you and the devotees. Krishna sent me there, sent me to the temple for this reason, and you'll always be my family. And you know, I'm only 5 hours away. I will be back a lot. As you said, my family's here, my roots. And but I want to thank all of you for your love and acceptance of me throughout this time, and I'm glad that we've been able to continue through Zoom, but I really miss all of your physical presence. And the next time I come back, hopefully we'll all be together in person. Thank you again.
So we should have a, Mataji, when are you planning to go? I was thinking if we could have a farewell event of sorts in person.
I'm planning on leaving probably the morning of November 7th. I wanted to make sure that I voted here where I'm registered. And so that's why. But yes, I plan on leaving the morning of the 7th, unless something changes. So yes.
Okay. All right. So Gopal Hari Prabhu, maybe I can call you later and let's plan something. This is a really, really big decision. It's very inspirational. Also, I can sense how emotionally difficult it will be for the community. I remember when I came to Indianapolis, the kindness that Miranda Mataji has, the way she would greet all the guests and then see to their needs and talk to them and serve them so selflessly. It'll be very difficult to.
I learned from the best, all of you. So, that's what it's about.
All right. So, hey, we are now infiltrating New Vrindavan. So that's good. So New Vrindavan is closer now because we have people, or we will have people over there who we know very intimately. If not anything else, I'm sure somebody will be keeping some plates of prasadam for us over there when we go there. All right. So, yes, we should have, and all jokes apart, we really must and should use this opportunity to have a special program dedicated to Miranda Mataji and spend some portion of our time in glorifying her service and also, reciprocating with her in that manner. I think it will be very helpful for us. Congress. Okay. Gopal Hari Prabhu, was there anything else?
Nothing else, Prabhu, except that we want to now very heartily and loudly thank Prabhuji for his wonderful association, for giving us such an inspirational jump, an inspirational shot into celebrating Kartik. I really actually personally feel energized by this class to do something special for this 1 month that is so special, and for his always graceful and wonderful association. So I'll unmute everyone. We can all say Hari Bol to him. And
so, Prabhu, let's thank Srila Prabhupada. I think that'll be so much better for everyone as well as for my false ego. So please let us thank Srila Prabhupada by saying Jai Srila Prabhupada 3 times. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
And then let us end by offering Vaishnava pranams to each other and to all the Vaishnavas in our life who have brought us to this point and who continue to shower us with their blessings. Okay. Vancha kalpa tarubhya Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.